Every week, I find myself asking myself if I know what I'm doing. Sometimes it turns out I do. So, hi there. Welcome, everybody, once again to Cast Iron Wednesday. This is a long running tradition that a lot of the smaller YouTube cooking channels have been doing for at least the past 10 years or so, for some of them anyway. Because cast iron has gotten so popular, especially in the last decade and a little bit more, that a lot of channels like doing a cast iron video on Wednesday because it gives us an excuse to have fun. It gives us an excuse to play with our cast iron and as well as to hopefully cook up something delicious. Not too many of them do live videos, maybe because they're smarter than I am. But nonetheless, I've, for better or for worse, I have been doing these live videos here on my YouTube channel for about 5.5 years at this point, somehow, and yet I've actually managed to survive this long. So who knows how long we're going to keep doing this? Hopefully for quite a while yet. But really, the big reason why I've been doing this for the last 5.5 years is because of you folks. You folks have been kind enough to show up and give me someone to entertain. And you seem to like what I've been doing. So as a result, I've been coming back here every week. And so I definitely do like thanking the folks who have been kind enough to say hi and stop by each week on this channel, as well as the ones who may be visiting here for the first time. So hello, as always, to Rocket Caver, and hello to Rick Stumbo and Jim Glatar. And hello, Cynthia Wesley and Radagast and Kevin Brown and everybody else who's been kind enough to take a look, because I can see we have 30 people viewing at least. So that's a good start. And while I'm not demanding that everybody take part in our chat, the ones who do usually have a lot of fun. So thank you once again for the folks who are here and are willing to make comments about what I'm doing here, as well as having your own conversations about what else, cast iron. And hello as well to Jamie Ledgerwood and Corey Clark and Rick Stumbow. So thank you once again thank you to everybody. Especially since, well, tonight, as stated in the preview of this video, as well as the title of this video, I've actually pulled out a piece of cast iron that I really should be using more often, but I haven't. And this is as good an excuse as any to do some cooking and help to freshen it up, to be sure that it is in good condition, especially the seasoning. That's really the main reason why I've been doing my best to rotate through my cast iron collection. So this thing is pretty darn heavy, so I can only hold it like this for a little while. But yes, we've got ourselves a cast iron spider this week. And I know everybody really who knows anything at all about cast iron cookware knows about cast iron spiders. Usually, besides the pictures on the internet, of course, usually it's because you come across at least one spider at an antique mall or maybe even at a flea market, because those things were made they made so many of those cast iron spiders during like the 18th and 19th centuries that quite a few of them have survived today, and they can indeed be found everywhere. Although this particular one is a lot newer than that. Meal you need to be making. I cook fine cuisine for supper. Boogie meal. Well, that sounds good. I'm glad to hear you had a good supper then. Hot dogs for as well. Well, fortunately, we're doing a little bit more than hot dogs tonight. But yes, as I said, let me take off the lid, in fact, and show that to you. This is of course, is the lid to a camp oven. And yes, this was made by Birmingham Stove Range. It has the 12-inch marking on it that they put on all of their lids that they made all the way from the 1930s and possibly earlier, all the way up to when they stopped making these spiders, probably around the 1980s or so. While they did make some changes to the design of their camp ovens and their spiders over the decades, it took a long time, and so there's any number of years, where you could say that a spider like this might have been manufactured. Although there are a few clues as to why I know this one was manufactured probably in the 1970s or later. But yes, here it is, a cast iron spider with the legs and everything, and a little bit of dust on the legs as well. But this is one reason why I'm actually taking this thing out to cook. What do I have? Oh, looks like it might even be a rust spot here in the bottom. Definitely time to freshen this up, and that, of course, is why we're doing this. Looking crazy at the hot dogs. Oh, okay. Is that lid smooth on the underside? As a matter of fact, yes, it is. Let me show you the other side as well. So this is indeed a genuine camp oven lid. And other than the fact that it's much smoother than the ones you see on those Asian-made Dutch ovens, there are very few differences between this and one made in China. That again, you could find it like say Harbor Freight Tools or the like. Although none of those ones there do have the 12-inch mark on the top, and especially they don't have the tab handle, the infamous tab handle, which frankly was not one of BSR's better ideas. Because this thing here, and I know it's been seen on a number of cast iron pieces as well, but it is everything they say it is. It can make this thing difficult to lift, even though they put this tiny little hole in it as a way to help lift it. So yes, I mean, I agree that the tab handle is not the greatest thing. There are former employees of BS&R on the internet who have actually commented on the tab lid, and the number one reason why they did the tab lid was, of course, cost savings, because it was much easier, much faster, and thus much less expensive to produce a lid with this tab rather than the actual handle like you see on most cast iron lids. They never did that for the Dutch ovens, largely because they sold far fewer of these spiders and camp ovens than they did the Dutch ovens. So because this was not their best-selling product, even though they made it for decades, I mean, they saw no reason not to try to cut some costs and ended up producing it this way. This particular spider, however, does have, besides the tab handle, which was only introduced after they went to the automated production in the 1960s, this has one other crucial mark. Actually, it doesn't even have that. It does not have a Made in USA mark. I actually forgot about that. So this could be anywhere from, like, say, 1966 or later, although you see it has a very, very tiny number 12 on the bottom. That is another indication that this is a more modern spider, one that probably would be maybe, say, from like around the 1960s to 1970s or so. And that means this is probably about 100 years older, or younger, I should say, 100 years younger than if you found this at any antique mall. You would almost certainly, it would have a sign saying that this is a Civil War piece or a cowboy skillet. Those are the two terms they usually use for these things, which would be, again, about 100 years older than this thing was actually made. So I use pliers to keep, oh, my money, right. Does a lodge lifter work on that hole? As a matter of fact, it does. It can actually fit in the hole, and that's probably the most reliable way to use it too. Meanwhile, on the other hand, I actually have a second camp oven heating up in the stove or in the oven right now, because I'm going to be using both of these tonight. Channel locks, to be exact. Yeah. And that's the other thing about channel locks, that while they do use them to lift these things, those have been known to damage these lids, in that they can actually break off the tiny little pieces of this tab handle, or even of the rim around the lid, especially when they get really, really hot from coal cooking. So things like that. Those are, again, some reasons why, unfortunately, the tab handle really was not the best design. Having said all that, let's actually do something with this. Namely, for the moment down here. Let's put this on the stove. I think the right way. Of course, I better move this handle so that I don't accidentally bump into it. So let's position it this way. There we go. Oh, that's a little better. And I don't think I need the lid on as I turn let me see, trying to position this in such a manner so that it's centered as much as possible. And this looks pretty good. It also looks pretty sturdy. So let's turn on the heat. There we go. And start heating this up so that we can actually do some cooking with it. Okay, yeah, I see lots of those lids and no, not to touch them no more. Yeah, exactly. um, but I was actually quite happy to obtain a full spider nonetheless with the lid, even though if you saw the preview for this video tonight before you arrived here, then you see that I do actually have another lid that I am really trying to find excuses to get a lot of use out of, because this lid is the exact same size and diameter as the BSNR lid. It's about 100 years older than the actual pot itself, and yeah, definitely it's got a much more cool design, I would say. So given a choice, if I were to cook with the two of these things, I would probably use this particular lid here, which does happen to be gate marked though. It's while it is smooth on the underside, as you can see, it's kind of like got this divot on the inside with the gate mark. So for cooking, it could still be done, but it's not as easy. Finally, the actual inscription on this particular lid says Gibson Love Manufacturing Company, Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I do believe there are a couple of folks in this channel who are from Chattanooga. So yes, this is actually from your hometown. Okay, anyway, now that I've said that, let's see if we can get some cooking done here. Yeah, I would try to get a big ring through the hole in the tap. Yeah, that makes me think actually of something that they do in South Africa, in that when they lift the lid handles of their poikies, what they actually do is string some wire through this handle and some cork as well, so that you can lift it that way. And that's certainly possible. If I didn't even think of it until this very moment, otherwise I might actually try to do that just right now as a demonstration. Okay, what was I saying? Oh yeah, that's right. Let's put this to the side, put this out anyway. And like I said, let's work on doing some actual cooking, shall we? That means, oh good, let's bring out a pork loin. How about that? Yeah, the cooking's not going to be too difficult tonight. So in fact, this here is a almost 10-pound, a 9.8-pound pork loin, and I'm not going to be cooking all of this tonight, although I am going to be cooking about half of it. And that's one reason why I better start getting ready so that it'll be cooked before the video ends. All right. And let's see what else. Ocean whitefish pate. Okay. Most people give diaper. Oh, sounds like you must be taught. Oh, I see. I treat my iron like a newborn. Cute. All right. Anyway, as I said, let's dig out a nice big knife, and I'm going to essentially do about half of this pork loin. So probably the easiest way to do this would be, all right. Oh, by the way, I've got this as well as a plastic cutting board, especially so that when I cut this thing open, it is definitely going to leak out a lot of liquid. And I really don't want to spill the liquid all over the place. So here we go. Get the rest of this. And a little bit more on this end. All right, there. That should be big enough me to extend this out of the plastic to about the halfway point. That's roughly about here. Slice carefully. This is a knife. It is sharp. I have to be careful. There we are. Now that I've done that, wrap up the rest of this. Yay. And stick this back in the fridge. Okay. And to this, meanwhile, let's slice this in half once again so that half of this is going to be a pork roast. And my hands are soaked, so I better get a paper towel. And okay, let's put this over here. There we go. Here's another rack for us. So half of this is going to be a pork roast, which means I'll put this over here for the moment. And the other half I'm going to cut into some nice thick pork chops. The roast is going to roast in the oven, whereas the pork chops I'm going to fry on the stovetop in that spider. I should probably put this into quarters. So 1, 2. Nice and thick. I like that. I've learned as well from cooking steaks, definitely want to cook a thicker piece of meat than a thinner one. I turn my nose up at thin steaks now unless I absolutely have no choice because they cook too fast, especially on the insides. There we are. Come on. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right. Now I can move this to the side. I'll be able to clean this up a little later. And here are our, pieces of pork. So, oops, now that's all right. Okay, let's start just quickly. Pat these dry. They don't have to be bone dry. I just realized I forgot to take out my kosher salt. So again, I'm just going to have to hold, if you'll hold tight for just another few seconds. No matter what, I always forget something. Okay, and seeing as how my hands are wet like that, I should probably even, with one other thing, salt into a dish. And the main reason why I'm doing this is because, again, my fingers are wet and I don't want to contaminate the rest of this kosher salt by sticking my bare fingers into it. Instead, I'll just do it this way. One. Back, I can see I'm probably going to need more kosher salt too. 2, 3, and 4. I'm definitely going to need a little more kosher salt for the other side of this. But right now, let us take out my pepper grinder, my Christmas present that I've gotten a little better at. It's no longer giving powder now. The grains of pepper are definitely a little bigger because I managed to adjust it. And this is going to be a very, very simple roast and cook because all I'm doing is coating these with salt and pepper. And that's it. I know there are a whole bunch of really nice spices you can put onto pork, but I'm just keeping this very bare and very basic. Partly because, yet again, you're probably tired of me talking about the carnivore diet. Whoa, that's a little too much. So I won't say too much about it. But let's turn this over now. Pat it down. Turn it over. Turn it over. 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 And over. And pat it dry once again. Doesn't have to be bone dry. In fact, because it's a little bit moist, that means that the salt and pepper will at least be able to stick to this before it goes into the pan. Let me see what we're saying here. If it spins and wobbles, okay. Stubby legs and gate mark. Oh, somebody must be talking about you must have a spider of your own, I guess. I kind of missed some of these comments, I'm afraid. Okay, now on this side, the pork roast here, I've got the fat cap on top, of course, so that way, as it heats, as it cooks in the oven, it should render and the fat should melt, which of course is what we want. No need to be shy on the kosher salt, largely because, especially these larger grains, not all of it's not going to be absorbed too much into the steak. So, yeah, steak, well, pork chops, either way, but it's not. But a fair amount of it is going to come off on the into the pot. Okay, so a little bit of that, a bit of this, and that, and here. There we are. And voila. That's really all the prep work we need to do. This is going to be nice and simple. I've pretty much been doing this, although not all of this all at once, every day almost, as I've been doing this carnivore diet here. It's just raining bad enough to ruin the Wi-Fi. I'm sorry to hear that, Cynthia. But now that we've gone this far, okay, that means now we can go back to the stove, where in the first place, this spider is heating up nicely. Yeah, we are already at just about ready to cook. But before I do that, I'm going to do the other part, which is take out a big iron pot from the oven. This around a little bit. I have a good view of this, or that you have a good view of this. In fact, I better move the microphone a little closer now so that you can hear what I'm saying. And I'm sorry if I lost the sound there for a moment. Okay, that little grinder really puts out. Yeah, I know. I can only hope that as I hope, it'll last for the rest of my life. All right. Let's get some hot iron out of the oven. Actually, I didn't even need to preheat this, but I wanted to because it might help. Okay, let's get this. Whoops. Oh, great. Okay, good. We're still good. All right. Here it is. Preheated to 400 degrees. Birmingham Stove Range temp oven. This, all we really need to do now, plop this in. Insert a probe thermometer. Do this right. want to do this in a way that it'll properly. Okay, I think we got it now. Oven. Ugh. Oh, damn it. Crap. I just. I didn't break this. My thermometer just fell on the floor. Really? Like. Yeah, I know, folks. Here comes the chaos. What else is new? Okay. First of all, let's make sure it still works. And yay, it still works. The part that came off was the plastic cover. On. Get this thing back on. Oh, good. There we go. That was actually a little easier than I thought. Okay, I have this set for 150 degrees Fahrenheit, which is enough to do some well done pork without drying it out. So that's part one. As I said, we're going to have a roast, and other than that, okay, that mic doesn't seem to pick up well at a distance. Well, I'm sorry about that. I hope you didn't miss too much. I apologize. Can you hear me okay now, folks? Because as far as I know, this mic should have some decent gain at this point. Okay. All right. Oh, you mean the pepper mill? Then William said little, right. It is much fun without the chaos. Well, thank you very much for that. However, that was the hard part. Now comes the easy part, except, and I realized I forgot something else, namely cooking oil. So, okay, move this knife out of the way, way out of the way. These chops right nearby. And now we're ready. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I hope you can, because we are about to sear up a little bit of meat. There we go. Don't need too much oil. Okay, that looks pretty good. And here comes the fun part. One, two, and three. Okay. Now I can relax because the chops are cooking. And the weather in Cleveland is cold and rainy right now. I decided it's chilly weather. Well, anytime is good chilly weather, so I certainly won't disagree with that. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Now that these things are cooking, I wanted to put on a lid. That will help them to cook, and it will also help keep down the splatter of the grease all over the stove. So there we go. I get to use this 19th century lid. Let me set this kitchen timer just for 5 minutes. That might even be more than enough. Yeah. Well, it's still not entirely level. I might need to try to adjust it a little bit more. Also, there is the matter of this this spider sitting on the grates with its legs, although it looks like the legs are not touching anything. So I think it's fairly close to level. Anyway, here we are. So now at least we can get another look at this 19th century lid here. And yay, I'm so glad I'm finally able to use this thing. This is the first time in a while, so I'm happy about that. It fits perfectly onto this 12-inch spider, and that's because with camp ovens, and I think Lodge is the same way too. I mean, even though BSNR pans, skillets, and for the stove and their Dutch ovens were slightly larger than the competitors, all of these spiders here seem to measure exactly the same. Maybe because they were made not to fit on stoves with their own, where the manufacturers put their own sizes into the stoves, but instead they're meant for coal cooking and fire cooking. So as a result, a 12-inch a 12-inch spider from just about any manufacturer is indeed just about exactly 12 inches in size, or rather in diameter. Namely, the rim is 12 inches from one side to the other. The underside is usually an inch less, in that so that it should be able to fit onto the pan with very little problem. Okay. Meanwhile, the temperature of the thermometer at this point has reached 49 degrees, so that's not bad. One thing I've had some difficulty with these pork loin roasts is that the temperature seems to be skyrocketing way too quickly, and that means the probe thermometer is not properly inserted into the meat. The temperature has just risen to 50 degrees, so I might actually have to check it again in like maybe about 10 minutes or so. But I simply have that pork loin, simply roasting. Yeah, it's already up to 51. I think I am going to have to check it. I have that pork loin roasting in a 400-degree oven. Of course, it might also be the fact that I put it into a preheated cast iron pot, so that might also be why the temperature is going up so fast. But I might end up double checking that. Okay. Double team snake, and that snake. I hate snakes. Anyway, I'm happy at least to have the opportunity to use this particular piece of cast iron. It's been sitting around, and I haven't used it anywhere near as much as I would have liked. But that might just be me, too. The timer, meanwhile, has 2 minutes to go, so I'll be able to flip that after that. I could probably flip it at any time, to be honest. Yeah, then after that one's done, I have one more pork chop to do. This one, just because I'm not that great at slicing meat, this one happened to be a lot thinner than the other three chops. Okay, now we're down to 1 minute to go. Would that lid fit my 12-inch large camp oven? I'll bet it might. That's as I was saying, in that it seems like the camp ovens and spiders in particular from most manufacturers were very similar in size. So it's entirely possible. Meaning that if you come across one of these older lids, you might even want to pick it up if you get it at a decent price, that is, and try it on your large Dutch oven, a camp oven. I don't have a large camp oven on me at this time. The only camp oven I have is the BSNR one that's sitting there in the stove. But I would suspect there's a good chance that, yes, this lid would probably fit. It's getting hot already. So, timer has just gone off. Let's get out the tongs. And, okay. Yeah. Yeah. a lot of moisture, and this is kind of steamed too because of that. Come on. There we go. 2 and do this right. 3. I think I'll move these around a little bit. That's not doing too badly. Now here, I think I will just set this to 3 minutes. There we go. Gumbo might be a really good thing. Oh, that sounds interesting, actually. So far, I've only had reptile once in my life. When at a Dutch oven gathering, I tried alligator, and I have to be honest, I found it to be kind of rubbery. I'm not sure if it was cooked very well. I wouldn't mind trying it again, though, just to see if it turns out any better the next time. Cat is enough. Felines are a lot faster. Yes, indeed. I have a cat still, and she has been really pestering me to go out because it is definitely getting close to spring and she can feel it. No, she's been neutered, but I mean just the weather in general, she wants to go out. So I've had to tell her no, even though the temperature reached 70 degrees today, we're not at quite the right time yet. Because after today, the temperature is going to drop again. By tomorrow, we're going to be back into the 30s. 40s. I'm thinking in about maybe 2 weeks at the most, I will open up my door and let Miss Mobley out again. Mid cultures. Why not a stew? Yes, exactly. But yeah, Jim Glatter. Well, you know very well that's one of the nice things about cooking in cast iron. I mean, I really do think that there is no better way to cook a steak or a pork chop than in cast iron. And I know folks will say, "Oh yeah, well you got to do it flaming on the grill," and that does produce a great steak. I won't deny that. But I love a cast iron a steak made in cast iron. We only have about 1 minute to go. So I'll just have to make sure these pork chops are done. And then we will throw in the last one. All right. Meanwhile, at this point, the roast has reached 69 degrees. At this rate, it should probably be done like maybe in about 20 minutes or so. Maybe less. No, no, definitely not less. I mean, it's not even at the halfway point. I'm aiming for 150 degrees. So there is still time yet. However, these chops have only another 10 seconds to go. In fact, I'll cut the timer now because why not? And drop this lid. Lid is steaming. Over here. Try this and see, shall we? Oh my. This one is only at 99 degrees. Or, yeah, the other side, or this one here, on the other hand, says 153. That is a huge difference. This one also says 118. Boy, I must have sliced them not thick enough. Okay, so that means this one will come out. And I guess I will have to put the lid back on for, I don't know, probably another couple of minutes or so. Okay. Let's timer. Cats will or won't return home if you let them out. Well, there is that. At least, I mean, Miss Mobley, as I said, she loves going out, and she has not had a problem with that. So that's why I'm looking forward to letting her out. And here is one pork chop anyway. The only thing is, and I've said this many times before about poor Miss Mobley, is that she does not fight. She does not fight anyone, not humans, not other cats or anyone. She lets them all bully her around. So that might be one reason why she stays close to the house. She has caught mice and birds, though, so she is still a hunter. But when I let her out, I'm going to have to bring all of her food into my office where I can watch it 24/7 so that the blankety blank neighborhood cats don't get in and eat her food. One gray rat in particular that I'm going to have to keep an eye out for if he's still around. We have been letting the kitties out when we are outside, never alone. I use glass lids when possible. Hate cleaning iron lids. Well, yes, you have a good point, and I've gotten into glass lids myself. However, first, I haven't found a 12-inch glass lid yet. And second, I'm doing this intentionally, especially to freshen up this cast iron lid. In that, basically, I'm going to be re-seasoning this. So I am doing this intentionally. But no, you're right about that, about the lids. I do find the glass lids do have an advantage over the iron lids for that reason. Okay, here we go again. Come on already. What a difference, even though it's still only at 125. This one is about 135. This one is only about 120. So we're going to leave the cover off at this point. Come on. There we go. And with any luck, we should get this up to the right temperature in about another minute or so. Large iron lids are hard to clean for sure. I've always come out and go to trees almost 15 years now. Not always so lucky with others. Yeah, some cats are better than others. That's why, as I said, I know Miss Mobley. She knows enough at least to stay close to home because she could very well get into trouble if she doesn't. Still, this is going to be her 4th year going out, so that's why I can feel pretty confident that she will do okay. Anyway, while I'm waiting, I've got one more pork chop to do, so let's give that a start. This one is much thinner. I unfortunately made a mistake and sliced this one maybe about half the size. All right. I guess I should ask. I'm sure there are other folks here in this channel who have their own camp ovens, no doubt. I'm wondering if anyone has a spider as well, or either or. Yeah, because spiders do look cool. I mean, that handle really does give it a nice rustic look. It is an attractive design, I will say that. This is probably why they really never changed it over the years. BSNR one, this particular one, they never had the inches number here on the top of the handle. The top side design, they never did change all the way from the beginning to the end. And there were only slight modifications to the underside as well. The original Red Mountain series DSNR lids had the legs right out at the edge of the bottom of the pan, whereas the newer Century series camp ovens, the legs are inset a little bit. They are not at the outer edge of the bottom. Neither of these had heat rings. Another sign that they were never meant to be put on a stove top. Not that there's anything wrong with that, as you can see. Okay. Meanwhile, the temperature now says the roast has reached 94 degrees. 94, 95 degrees. Not doing too bad with the time. All right. Now, I'd say these tops are most likely, these ones are most likely done. Again, all I did was coat these with kosher salt and pepper. In fact, if I wasn't on the carnivore diet, I would very much like to make a gravy and smother these with gravy. But I'm not supposed to do that. So, gosh darn, I'm just going to have to eat this delicious pork chopped on its own, naked. But that's also one reason why, by the way, I cook my pork to 150 degrees. Much like chicken. First of all, 150 is well done, so it is not going to have any pink in the center. Much like a steak. On the other hand, the rules that they have now about cooking your meat below 165 degrees is that you will still kill off any bacteria, even at 150 degrees, if you just let it sit and rest for a few minutes, which is exactly what I'm doing here. Just simply don't eat it as soon as you take it out of the pan, which you're not supposed to do with meat anyway. You have to have the meat rest, let it rest, so that the juices will settle. Right. We have a couple of very old spiders, but they are pitted. Well, are they too pitted to cook with? And that's debatable because, as you know, you could cook in just about any piece of cast iron unless it's cracked or it actually has holes punched all the way through it. I make gravy to put on potatoes. That sounds good. Huh. Yeah, if there's one thing I miss since starting this carnivore diet, it would be potatoes. Well, maybe in another week or so I might splurge. But not yet. Much like if and when, hopefully, when I go to the National Cornbread Festival, that is going to be a splurge day. Although I'm not going to pig out, but I'm looking forward to having things like, well, say, cornbread. Right. I lost a big tomboy coyote. Ooh, sorry to hear that, William Hurt. Oh, and I hope you're hearing me okay, folks. In fact, let me move this microphone a little bit closer just so to be sure that you can hear me okay. This thing is not doing too badly. All right, the oven thermometer, meanwhile, has reached 103 degrees. And I noticed that since I took that lid off, this has been splattering grease all over the stove, which is why I had the lid on there in the first place. On the other hand, it's giving a nice swirly pattern to the smoke here. So that's doing nicely too. And I don't even have the oven fan on, or stovetop fan, I should say. By the way, if you notice, though, even so, at least it's not giving tons and tons of smoke. So that's another good thing. At least I like to think I've gotten a little bit better at cooking meat, such as steak and pork chop, since I first cooked that leather steak way back in 2010. If any folks, by the way, have any questions, I mean, please feel free, whether it's about the make of this particular spider or camp oven, or if you have any other things about spiders and camp ovens that you might want to talk about, or otherwise talk about your own cast iron, or ask me questions about my other cast iron, because it's all open for discussion. I am very much interested in keeping the conversation going. It's a day trip for me. I cannot eat pork chops without applesauce. Oh yeah, missing my applesauce definitely. But like I said, that's what I get for being on the carnivore diet. Still, I find this looks pretty appealing nonetheless. Yeah, that's one difference about pork versus steak in that folks don't seem to mind when it gets into well done territory and not just medium rare. So turn off the stovetop heat. Last pork chop goes onto the plate. Not bad at all. This will probably get me through all of tomorrow, in fact. As for the roast, well, I made the roast largely so that I could make a roast on YouTube Live tonight. But that will go in the fridge. And that will probably last me all the way up until the weekend. So we are not doing too badly here. What I probably should do, in fact, get my other glove wherever I put it. Where did I put it? And put that lid onto the spider. Except I do not remember where I put my other glove. Good grief. All right. Well, then I'll have to get out the other gloves. These fancier ones, got at a restaurant store just a couple of weeks ago. Okay, there we are. That's why I'm using two gloves. There. That at least will cut down on the splatter a little bit. I have the heat turned off, so it will slowly cool off. Meanwhile, again, what do we have here? Here is the thermometer. Here. I think you could see that in the glare from the light. So that's a little better. Both of them. That's a little better now. All right. I have cornbread envy. Oh, yeah. Well, thank you again. But yeah, the lid, where did I pick up the lid? I think, oh, yes, now I remember. Brimfield, in fact. It was meant to, oh, yeah. Boy, that was a while back. Boy, at least 10 or more than 10 years ago, I made a great score at a flea market and scored an Erie, yes, Griswold Erie, stovetop kettle, a really big one. Was shaped like the stovetop kettles, the bulge kettles you see in a lot of in a lot of gate marked stove sets. Although it did not have a gate mark, and it actually had the Erie mark on the bottom. I believe it was from the 1890s. Of course, it did not have a lid. And so when I took a trip to the Brimfield Antique Show that year, what year was that? 2013, maybe? That might be possible, which means 12 years ago, 13 years ago. Wow. I was one of the things I was trying to score at Brimfield was a lid for that particular pot. And if I remember right, that's where I came across this lid. And in fact, it did not fit. I forget, it was maybe a tiny bit small, I think, but it did not fit onto that Erie kettle. So rather than get rid of this lid, which I do agree is a nice lid, in fact, let's take another look at it. Rather than get rid of this lid, I quite frankly let it sit around. It's one of the pieces that, despite my vow that I try to make all of my pieces users, I really didn't use this one. And I ended up selling that Erie kettle largely because, once again, I think I used that Erie kettle maybe once or twice over the space of at least 2 years. So I ended up selling it. And instead, over time, this lid just simply sat in my collection gathering dust until only about a year or so ago when I acquired the Birmingham Stove Range number 12 Dutch oven that is currently in the oven right now. And the temperature has reached 120 degrees. So no, it's not going too fast. So I think we're doing okay there. With any luck, it should be done, I think, in time by the end of this live. And I acquired that particular Dutch oven without a lid because I knew it would fit the other lid, namely this lid from the Spider. And it does, in fact. I mean, they're the exact same size, at least in diameter, and this lid is interchangeable on either the Spider and the camp oven. However, then I started to suffer the symptoms of cast ironitis, in that I was thinking, gee, even though that lid will fit on either the Spider and the camp oven, it would be nice if the camp oven had a lid of its own. And that's what we get for having cast ironitis. Until I suddenly realized, wait a second, I have a lid. I have a 12-inch cast iron lid. And that's where you saw in that video, in fact, that I have as the preview for this live. That's when I tried this lid on that camp oven and found it fit perfectly. So yay, I was very happy because now I actually have a use for this lid. And I did not have to go out hunting and spending more money on a second BSNR lid just so that I would have it for that camp oven. So there is one of my many stories of cast ironitis. Because at least now I have an excuse to use this lid, freshen it up, which is what we're doing now. Boy, yeah, it's splattered all over the place. I'm definitely going to have some fun cleaning this up. But I seem to have accomplished what I wanted to do, namely that I'm going to clean this up and give it a little bit more seasoning so that it will be nice and fresh. And yay, this also means I will have gotten some use out of this lid and the Spider and the camp oven. So for me, mission accomplished. Okay. Since you haven't used the Spider in a while, thoughts on how the pan will clean up with the burnt pork drippings? I'm not too worried about it, largely because it is still a thick cast iron pot, and it's actually pretty smooth. How hot is this at this point? I still need my gloves. In that, this is not really going to be difficult to clean up. I mean, it looks nasty, yes, but in fact, looks like it's a little bit burned on, but not much. So what I will do is, well, one is I'll have to wipe out the extra grease, and then I'll just put a little bit of water in the bottom and boil it so that it dissolves. And it should clean very easily. At worst, I might have to re-season this in the oven. But either way, at least I will have this re-seasoned and freshened up. Okay, so yeah, between this and my BSNR number 10 skillet, which is actually a wee bit bigger than this, not much, but a little bit bigger, and my Griswold number 10, I have enough big cast iron pans to do whatever I need to do with. So all of this is really telling me that, quite frankly, I have very little reason to expand my cast iron collection. I like all my pots and pans to have their own cast iron lids. Don't like sharing lids around. Yeah, I know. Even though we don't have to, even though the lids are interchangeable, it's like we've got this urge to give each pan its own lid. That's even why I shortly after I got my Finex cast iron pan, which, as you know, is octagonal in shape, I did have to go and get a Finex lid for it for precisely the same reason. But yes, Rocket Caber, that's what we call cast ironitis. Yes, you can blanch that right off. That's my hope. So this really won't be too difficult to clean up. All right, the roast at this point is at 132, so we are getting somewhere. Buffering bad. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Cynthia. I know that seems to happen a lot, and I apologize. Anyway, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea, I think. Take out a spare cloth. Um, it's right. Oh, there's my other glove. Step around to the other side and at least wipe up a little bit of this extra grease. Wipe up a little bit of this extra grease. I'm going to talk loud since I'm not close to the camera. That's splattered all over the stove top here. The flame is off, so I can do this safely. It's hot, so I just want to be sure not to scald or burn myself. But at least this thing's not going to catch on fire, so that's not so bad. In fact, I just bumped this accidentally, and I didn't burn myself. I like glass just as much as cast iron. They have heft. You can see the food cooking and easier to clean. Oh yeah, no, glass has a lot of advantages. I can't. I think glass does not conduct heat very well, though. So cooking in glass is not the best. On the other hand, yeah, glass lids are fantastic. Which is also why I do not have any glass baking dishes. When I first started out in learning to cook, yes, I did have a couple of glass baking dishes. I ended up getting rid of them. I think I brought them to Goodwill or something. As instead I acquired ooh, that was hot. As instead I acquired cast iron baking dishes, like the casserole dish, for instance, as well as the fact that you can cook and bake just about anything in a cast iron skillet or a Dutch oven. So I don't have any need for a glass baking dish. Even though, as I said, I like these glass lids, and hopefully I'll be acquiring more of them soon once the weather is good and I get out and have a chance to do some treasure hunting. Inside rim of my 12-inch large camp oven is 11 and 3/4. Yeah, that's generally how it goes. in that just that because the pot here is so thick, or it's about a quarter inch all around, which is why the inside rim is a quarter inch smaller. Although at least you have, well, no, I have a rim as well on this. So mine, I would suspect, is probably about the same size. Glass baking dishes are great for sticking food. Well, there is that. Not to mention, of course, the possibility that a glass baking dish could break, especially at high temperatures. So, yeah, that's another reason why I've given up pretty much on glass baking dishes. All right, we're at 141. We're getting close. 142 now, in fact. For a slow roast or stew, the cast iron lid is superior, but those Dutch ovens do have their own lids anyway. Oh, yes, I know. Because the heavy lid, it does, again, hold down, and it helps keep the it helps keep the moisture inside the pot so that less of it evaporates. There is that. That's one good reason to have a heavy lid as opposed to a light lid. The glass lids do a pretty good job of that too. But that's another reason why, especially for making things like chili in the oven, for instance. That's why a lot of people will just simply use a cast iron lid, including myself. I've made oven chili and it's turned out great, largely because the lid, again, helps give more even heating. Because the food is completely surrounded on all sides by cast iron. Go after lids as well. Yeah, lids are, as you know, are often a lot more rare than the pans themselves, largely because when people buy them, except for collectors and completists, um, really, it's like because you can cook in a cast iron pan without a lid, but you can't cook on a cast iron lid without a pan. So people buy fewer of those lids for that reason. They tend to get rid of those lids for that reason. That's one reason why in a combo set like this, the lid is usually missing. That's why you can find spiders all over the place at antique malls and the like. But spiders with the original lid are much more rare and much more valuable for collecting purposes for that reason. Not to mention that many of the manufacturers didn't put an ID mark on the spider, they only put it on the lid. Partly, I would think, because again, anybody can see the manufacturing mark right there on the lid as opposed to on the underside of a spider. But probably also for the same reason, because the lid is more valuable than the spider. Probably more difficult to manufacture, too. They put more effort into it. And we're getting close. We're at 148. Yay. That means I over here. Let's move the microphone over to here. And how am I going to do this? A 400-degree pot. I don't think I want to put a 400-degree piece of cast iron onto this wooden board here. So, what do we have? I think I'll do this. In fact, let's move this out of the way. There it is. Okay. Here, shall we? Yeah, that should work. Let's put this here. And get this out of the oven. That means, once again, better get these gloves. Here we go. Only I better better take out the thermometer before I take it out of the oven so I don't knock the thermometer over again. Oh, yeah. Ooh. And guess what? I knocked this stupid thing over again. Damn it. Ah, brilliant, brilliant. Well, nonetheless, oh, damn it. Yeah, here we are. Yay. Close the oven door. I can't believe I knocked this thing over twice. Oh well. Here we are. Now, let's get a plate so that this thing can rest. Do this right, shall we? Of course, I don't want to burn myself on this hot piece of iron here. Come on. There we go. Oh, come on. Stuck a little bit. There we go. Now we got it. Of course, the stuck-on bits are the tasty bits. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Now, for safety reasons, let's take this big hot pot and put it back on the stove. There. Oh, yeah. I know you folks want to see the cast iron, so I'll keep that over there. On the other hand, here's our pork roast. As I said, all I did was coat it in salt and pepper. And again, this is probably going to last me till the weekend, so I'm quite happy about that. And on the other hand, okay, these pork chops have rested, though it looks like they've let out a little bit of juice. Not that there's any problem with that. So I've got plenty of meat for the next couple of days. I'm definitely, well, at least I'm sticking to the carnivore diet. I think that's the best I could say here. Okay, what are you laughing at this time, William Hurt? Are you laughing at the fact that I knocked that thermometer over twice tonight? Yeah. Well, at least I didn't drop a glass lid. Let's say that. So apparently the only part that came off is a part that's supposed to come off. So I'm not doing too badly there. Namely that it seems like this thing just simply right on. It's supposed to, there it goes. Bam. Okay, now we're still good. And let me turn this on. Okay, so that part works. It says low because the probe is not in. So, hey, I will give credit to this brand of thermometer, at least. It seems to be able to take a beating like that. If that was a Walmart thermometer, it probably would have broken the moment it fell on the floor the first time. All right. The lodge lids are glass, right? So I can see and make sure I am not burning my food. Yes, they are. Well, let me get my lodge lid. Here's a lodge lid with a rubber or silicone or something cover on it. And this part here is screwed on, and it looks like it's already come loose. In fact, I'm good just from regular use. I'm going to have to tighten this. But so far, that seems to be the only thing that's happened to this large lid since I've used it several times. It has a nice, it has a glass, no, it has a metal rim, as you can see. And while it is glass, so yes, you can see the food cooking. Again, it's in three pieces: the glass piece, the metal rim, and the screw on handle. So, considering that, I'm probably going to not buy any more of those kind of lids. No offense to Lodge, because so far I do like the glass lid that I've acquired. I think I better get that and be careful not to drop it. This is a glass lid that probably came from a typical crock pot. It's Pyrex. I do believe I saw a Pyrex note here, or a little mark here on the top here, that does say USA, which means it has to have come from Pyrex, or rather from Corning, because now Corning owns Pyrex. Um, but what can I say? As I said, it's from a crock pot. It fit. This is number 7 in size, not number 8. I'm still looking for a whole glass lid that will fit on my number 8 cast iron pans, unfortunately. I haven't found one yet. This, on the other hand, fits perfectly on my number 7 BSNR skillet. So I'm happy about that. I'm definitely getting a lot of use out of it for that reason. But right now, my bucket list is to find a number 8 sized glass lid, all glass lid that is, to fit onto my number 8 skillets. Because I don't have any yet, I would be perfectly happy if I found a Pyrex lid or even an Asian made glass lid, as long as it's all glass and all in one piece. It would be nice to find a vintage glass lid like a Wagner or a Griswold, for instance. But at this moment, my priority is to just find a lid. Once I have a lid, then I'll be able to get fussy and look for a vintage lid. A great thermometer. Yeah, exactly. As a matter of fact, I got this particular brand of thermometer originally thanks to Alton Brown because, yeah, this is the brand that he used during the days of Good Eats. He used this all the time, as you know. And so I took his lead and got this brand of the thermometer. And it worked great until what happened? Did it die, I think? I forget whatever reason. But for a while, I got a Thermo Pro probe thermometer instead. And that actually worked pretty good too until the probe broke and could not find a replacement for the probe for it. So I just got another one of these thermometers because, as I said, it worked fine. And that's where I am right now. Hopefully, I'll have that thermometer for at least another few years. All right. My 12-year-old grandson has had Railfan YouTube channel for 2 years. Really? Oh, that's interesting. Especially because of how YouTube is treating kids. I mean, I know a lot of it is for safety reasons, and I'm not going to deny that. But I hope they don't shut down his channel suddenly. Okay. Glass lid for an 8-quart Instapot fits the large number 8 skillets perfectly. Oh, okay. I'm going to have to remember that. Now that you've given me some keywords to look for, I'll be able to look for it. So thank you very much. I mean, all I've been looking for is glass lid 10 inches. And most of them just give me the ones with the metal rims and the separate handles. But thanks to your advice, I'm going to take another look. All right. Glass animals, peak soda, skillet. Okay. Well, anyway, at this point, I'd say we might very well be all set anyway, because here it is 20 past 9. We've accomplished what we've set out to do, and I'm quite happy about that. I've had a chance to show off and use a couple of pieces of cast iron that I haven't used as much as I would like. And now that they're used, I'm going to have to clean them up and freshen them, which was the whole point. So I'm also happy about that, that these are going to be in a nice condition. And of course, again, I have meat. Hello, carnivores. All right. But other than that, at least, things are not doing too badly here on this end. We had a little bit more chaos tonight. Yes, I dropped that stupid thermometer twice, and yet it did not break. So kudos to whoever for that. Happy about that. Just as important, I actually remembered to use this particular microphone tonight, and even though I do apologize if the sound faded out once or twice, um, I'm hoping the quality of the sound actually has been better than it has been, because I really have not had much luck. It seems like with my microphones. Did I say thermometer? I meant microphone. Oh. Anyway, the is I have not had much luck with microphones doing these live videos, as you probably know. So I'm still trying to get the best one possible, and so far, I think the best one possible might indeed be this blue microphone. All right, GA glass lids are available. Well, there is the question as well of paying through the nose for them, and I'm still trying to avoid doing that, as I think everybody else is. All you would need are at least a dozen lids to fit your number 8 skillets. Yeah, I'm not going to get a dozen identical number 8 lids. Unlike the cast iron lids, I think I might be happy with getting a glass lid and rotate that through my number 8s as I use them. So, for instance, I have that number 7 glass lid. Even though I have more than 1/7 skillet, I have not had the urge to get another one. So who knows? Maybe it's because it's not cast iron. But regardless, I'm looking forward to finding it. So that's something to hopefully for the near future. As for tonight, though, I mean, as I said, I do feel like we've done what we want, what we needed to do tonight. This thing is still too hot to lift without a handle, without a glove. Ugh. Oh, by the way, if you'll notice carefully, I'm not sure if you can see that this lid was actually not exactly in two parts, but the way they actually made these is at the foundry, they actually stuck a curved piece of metal through both sides, and they came together here in the center to create the handle. That's why many of these lids look like that they have a crack in the center when in fact they don't. And that's also why many of these lids, the handle is actually broken in the center, that is. But then, well, and well, as I said, okay, but thank you for the advice there with the glass lid, and maybe with a little, maybe with any luck on your hunt for cast iron, you might be able to find one of these older spider or Dutch oven lids, because they are very nice. Yeah, as you can see, they're very nice. They're very thick, very heavy, excellent for cooking, and I'm glad to have been able to have used it tonight, as well as a real conversation piece. So yeah, then unfortunately, now I have an excuse to freshen up this lid because I have no intention of selling or getting rid of it. All right. I would need two number 8 glass lids, one to use and one to break. There is that. You've got that good, you've got a good piece of advice right there. I'm not going to deny that. Not at all. Sound was consistently good. Well, I'm glad to hear that, Clico. Because I know it was buffering for Cynthia Wesley and I do, and I'm sorry to hear that. But it's about time to be moving on now because, well, once again, this is in fact a Wednesday evening, and we've got to get through the rest of the work week, and then we've got a weekend to enjoy. So I do hope everybody does. Next week, I actually know what I'm going to be doing on Cast Iron Wednesday because Tuesday is, of course, St. Patrick's Day. Time for the corned beef and cabbage. But you know that what that means for the day of Thanksgiving, for the day after St. Patrick's Day? That means I'm drooling already. That means it's time for corned beef hash. So I'm finally going to be able to break out my walk, and we're going to have a walk Wednesday next week. And we're going to be making ourselves some corned beef hash, and I'm already looking forward to it. I'm going to enjoy these pork chops, but now that I've said corned beef hash, I am wishing I had some. But there's always next week. Until then, though, I'm once again, though, as always, I'm very thankful to everybody who has been kind enough to show up here, not just this week, but a number of weeks. And I do appreciate everybody who's taken the time to come here, as I do my best to entertain you, because I have a lot of fun having these conversations with you. I seem to be talking all the time, blah 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 blah. Partly because I am not a fan of having silence and dead air in these live videos, but also because you folks here give me a nice conversation to, and comments to reply to. And I can only thank everybody very much for that. So, yes, exactly. Well, I hope it was a fun show, William Hurt, because it certainly was for me. But yeah, next week, corned beef is fun. Yes. And hello, Gary Fish, as well. Kevin Brown, and a good evening, and thank you as well to Cast Iron Hillbilly and Rick Stumbow and Val's Black Cats Ruled. Well, I hope you liked it. Had a little bit of chaos, but at least the food turned out good. And yeah, that's the other thing. I need to end this so that I can actually eat some of that meat. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. And thank you as well. And thank you to Rick Stumbow and Corey Clark and everybody else who has been kind enough here to show and see my channel, because, well, as I said, I really appreciate doing these live videos, and because I know at least I'm giving you some entertainment, and it's a lot of fun. I think that's really what it comes down to more than anything else. So let's all go and have fun and be safe, especially since we've got some tornadoes coming tonight, at least in some parts of the country. So definitely be safe. So yeah, see you then for the hash as well. War in Ukraine and Val's Black Cats Rules. Stay safe and healthy out there, and everybody. Yes, see you next live. Like and subscribe. That would be nice. Thank you so much. Give my TikTok channel some views, because TikTok is definitely suppressing me there. Oh well, that's life. But until then, well, just relax and have a good evening, everybody. So once again, see you next Wednesday.